In this video, we're going to be looking at applications and problem solving. Now, if you're using a book, usually the book will kind of offer a step-by-step analysis of how the author or how their research has dictated that they should look at problems. I've learned that there are 7 billion different ways, best ways to look at problems. They all have some commonalities, but ultimately, you have to develop your own. And so the only real way to do this is, well, quite frankly, to do a lot of these problems. And that's just kind of the way. It's a skill that you build, and therefore you have to do a lot in order to build a skill. I have a slightly different way than many of my professors, and sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on the problem and depends on the number of variables. But in this particular video, we're not going to be looking so much at really, real world problems that have 100 variables and that sort of thing. We are going to be looking at very simple questions, and I've found that when you're asking simple questions, it's easiest to look at the question first before you start trying to answer it. And so that's where my way starts. Many will say familiarize yourself with the problem. That's step one. So read through the problem. I say forget that. First step, go find the question mark. That's the sentence you want to read. And the reason why is because now it tells you what you're looking for. Now your mind can get set in its ways and kind of work itself through. So step one, I've got in red, by the way, I have a question. But step one, go find all the sentences that end in a question mark. Read those. They define your variables. Okay, so now I kind of skimmed through it, and you can't see me pointing at the screen, but I'm pointing at the screen, skimming through it. And so, oh, question mark, read that. How many pixels are on a TV rated at 720p? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write that down. And what is this number of pixels? And we'll call that P. Okay, so now I say the number of pixels. Now, if you're not familiar with this type or with this particular thing here, it's not crucial. This just means is defined to be. And very often in mathematics or programming, we have to define our variables. Well, the variables are defined a little bit more formally in those cases, but here I need a name. I need to know what I'm looking for. Okay, so now go find all the sentences that end in a question mark, read those. They define your variables. Okay, now how many pixels are on a TV? Number of pixels. Okay, notice how the question leads you right into your definition. So the number of pixels is P. All right, now number two. Now read the problem and write down all of the numbers you are given. Make sure that you give them names. Okay? Now, as we start out with this, you want to name them. Don't worry so much about giving them variables, and which are letters that mean certain things, but just get them down. And so, as I read through, some high definition TVs have a picture rating of 720p. Yeah, okay. And what? I mean, there's really nothing there to use. These TVs have 720 rows of 1366 pixels each. Okay, so now I have some real numbers here. I have a number of rows. Okay, so I'm going to say the number of rows. I'm going to call them rows. So let's see. Let's go ahead and stay in purple here. Rows. 720. And now it says of 1366 pixels each. That's each row has 1366 pixels. Okay, so each row 1366 pixels. Now the abbreviation for pixels is px. It's a very common abbreviation. All right, so now I've got all my numbers. And I've got names. I have row and each row. Okay, now it says part 3. Come up with an equation that describes your problem. Use your variable and names that you called your values. Okay, here we're not doing numbers. We're just using the variable p and the names rows in each row. So here at this point, sometimes it's very handy to draw a picture. So if we just want to draw a small picture here, I'm just going to illustrate this particular problem. So I have a TV, okay, and I have a bunch of rows. Let's go ahead and make a bunch of rows here. Okay, so here's a bunch of rows. This just kind of gets us thinking. All right, now each row that has 1366, this row has 1366. And so if we were to go one row is 1300, two rows is 27, 32, three rows, four rows. Okay, well we have to do that for 720 rows. And so if I'm adding 1366 720 times, then that's really 720 times 1366. It's really the number of rows, or rows, times each row, and that is the number of pixels. But pixels, remember, the number of pixels was p. Notice there's no numbers here, no numbers, just names. Okay, now we go back, and in step 4, I go back and I replace my names with the numbers from step 1 and 2. And so if I had a number for step 1, which I don't, and very often you won't because that's the thing you're looking for. And so rows, so let's go ahead and change to yellow now because we're nearing the end here. So instead of rows, I put 720. Instead of each row, and I'm going to change my times to a dot. Instead of each row, I put 1366, and that equals p, the number of pixels. Okay, so now step 4, that's all. It's just making the equation. Step 5, we're going to finish it out. Solve the equation from step 4. Okay, so now we have 720. So we've got 720 times 1366 is equal to p, the number of pixels. Remember, p from step 1 is the number of pixels. That's what it represents. Okay, so now solve it. Well, we don't really have to solve it, we just have to multiply those two numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my chest calculator here, pop that up. I just need 720 times 1366, and I get 983,000. So I get 983,520 is equal to p, the number of pixels. So we answered the question. It said, how many pixels does a TV of that size have? 983,520. Now part 6, check to see that your answer makes sense. Okay, this step is a common sense step. Now the pixels are very, very, very small, and if you get really close to your screen, you can kind of pick them out, but they're still extremely small. And so if you can count the little pixels and you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, that's going to take you a long time. So, but if you see that they're very small and you have a large TV, you can see that you have a lot of them. Is 983,000 reasonable? That's all you're looking for at this point, and you kind of have to develop that feel. In this case, I can tell you it is, and so this is a good answer. And that's the step-by-step of going through and solving the problem. If you do that each and every time, then these are kind of general steps. The only thing that will change are the little mini steps in between. You might have to solve for p instead of just calculating. And that's how you work with applications and story problems.